Hey,
Hey,
how you doing?
good. How are you?
Pretty good. What's
Thanks.
up?
Thanks for willing to do this.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
I'm not going to only focus on Haida. I can talk about other stuff too.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So the first thing I can ask is, do you remember what was the first job that got you into SAG?
That got me into SAG. Oh, okay. It would probably have been a McDonald's commercial I did when I was like three, because technically I joined SAG in 1985 and I was born in 82. So it would have probably been like a commercial I did as like a baby. So that's my guess is McDonald's commercial where I ate chicken McNuggets and forgot to mute my freaking phone for this interview. 1 second. I'm prepared. I'm really professional. There we go. Now it's freaking muted. Hi, professional voice guy. What's up?
Well, I was going to ask, do you remember what your experience was on Baby Boom?
On Baby Boom. Yeah. So Baby Boom was probably the first movie I ever did. They when you're a little kid, they're like, we're gonna name this character your name so that you know that it's your turn to speak. So my character's name was Benji, and he's the scene is he's this very gifted child. Like it's the movie is about this woman who is unexpectedly pregnant, and she's like this businesswoman, and she's like, I don't know how to take care of a child, and so she's like learning the ropes, and she's seeing all of these women who are just like so much more advanced in like child rearing than she is, and one of them's like, oh yes, my son is like in this preschool for the gifted, and she's just kind of like, what? And so then my character comes up and goes, mommy, doesn't the sky look just like Paul Cézanne's Bay of Marseille? And like all the women like look up at the sky and they're just like, oh yes, yes it does, sweetie, go ahead and run along and play, Ben. And I'm like, okay, and I leave, and like that was my role. And so like all I remembered was just memorize those words. That's why I still have them memorized to this day. But like I didn't even understand what the movie was about when I was a kid. I was like, four, five, something like that.
Yeah. Is there more of a highlight then with out on a limb?
Out on a Limb, or Welcome to Buzzsaw, as what it was originally called, was like that was an unusual movie. I think they wanted like my character to be like the Gene Siskel to another character's Robert Ebert. Like
Oh,
we're like reviewing this wild story that's being told to us in a classroom setting that like no child would ever tell because it's full of like sex and violence. But it's like just it's that's like a weird dark comedy. But I actually never saw the movie, so I'm just like, yeah, that was the thing I did.
I thought it was interesting too that a couple other voice actors that went on to do a lot of anime stuff were also in California Dreams, the TV show.
Oh, really? Like who?
Bob Klein. You know who that is?
Oh, I know of Bob Klein. I don't actually know him personally, but
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. So moving ahead, do you remember what your first major anime part would have been?
Yes, it was actually my very first anime role. It's how I learned how to dub, which is not how you're supposed to do it. You should show up actually knowing how to do the mouth flaps. And it was Kai Miyagasuku from Blood Plus, which was a TV series based on the movie Blood the Last Vampire.
Right.
I auditioned for two characters. One was the one that went to Crispin Freeman, who's like this, like, handsome, vampire guy. And of course, it's like, yeah, that's a Crispin role. It's not a me role. And then there's the main character's human brother. And I was like, well, cool. If I book this thing and I'm not very good at this, that's fine. Cause like, I mean, she's like this super powered vampire woman who goes around like killing things when facing supernatural threats. And I'm like, my dude's probably going to die in like episode 2. So perfect. Turns out, spoiler alert, he survives the entire show and he's like one of the main characters. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, oh, I guess I better learn how to dub and get good real quick. And that's how I found out how the process works, was just by booking that role and nearly giving the line producer a heart attack, because he was under like a ton of stress on that project. And finding out that the dude you just hired to play one of the main characters has never done this before is probably the last thing he needed to hear. But yeah, that was my experience on Blood Plus. Was like, yeah, oh, so there's 3 beeps and then you talk. I thought you talked on the 3rd beep. I don't know how this stuff works. And they're like, oh god. But yeah, it was just a fun intro to anime. And then I just kind of was like, well, maybe I could do more of this. And the guys at Studiopolis were like, yeah, we'll send you auditions. I'm like, yes. And then that's how I got into like Naruto and all the other things that wound up following. But yeah, Blood Plus was my or yes, Blood Plus was my first one.
Mm-hmm. And I have found that everybody kind of has different answers as to how they personally took to dubbing. So it was more difficult for you.
No, once I understood how it worked and I was like, oh, okay, I got it. And to me, it was fun. To the people working on it, it was a nightmare because this particular show for the first 10 episodes, I'd say, was vastly underwritten. So like the line would just be like, let's go to the store. Right. And the characters mouth movement would be like,
yeah.
And it's like, let's go. We can't just stretch this out. So we were like, oh man, we got to add words. And I'm like, oh boy, creative writing. This sounds great. And that was so I was like excited to get to like help them write lines. And they're like, this is not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have it all written down. And yeah, that was, to me, like the process was not a complicated one. It was just it was just fun. It was just unique and not hard, but just different from what I was used to.
Mm-hmm. And since that's a darker series, one of my signature questions is always asking, what do you think is the darkest headspace you've had to go for any kind of voiceover role?
The darkest headspace. Oh. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. This is like the wrong answer that an actor's supposed to give, but like, here's what it is. I don't know, man. I just act. I don't know. I go like, oh, my character's supposed to be sad. Okay, hang on. Okay, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't know. Like I wish I could say like, I really go to like this deep, dark place, but for most characters, that actually doesn't help me. Like, for instance, if the character is like actually angry, I will channel a certain amount of rage within me. But like, if it's a situation where I'm actually really getting mad for real, like for some reason, like I'm not getting the character and I'm getting frustrated and angry, it actually makes it worse. So going to the place in true authenticity usually winds up screwing me up. So I wind up not going to too dark of a place for dark characters or too happy a place for happy characters. There's always just sort of like a sense of like, all right, here's this character over here, and then here's Ben's box over here. And Ben's box doesn't disappear completely. It's always like off to the side for me to stay grounded too. So yeah, my answer is always just like, I don't know, man, I just act very this. So there, that's my brilliant answer, my bad acting answer.
Well, I would think one of them would definitely be Kamui and Be the Beginnings.
Yeah, Kamui is sort of like he's kind of the Joker in a way. That's sort of like really demented thing where he's just like, you know, like he takes pleasure in torture and like all sorts of awful stuff like that. But like, I would say I didn't joke around a lot between lines, which I normally do. But yeah, that's as close as I get. It's just like, I'm going to make sure that I find this sort of sadistic place, but it doesn't just take over my personality. And like, I don't go, you never go 100% sadistic. You always have to have like a little bit of humanity. That's what I find usually helps me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you prefer doing a comedic opposed to dramatic then?
That depends. I like being villains more than heroes, but I like comedy more than drama. So if it's like dramatic, but like villainous, I like that. If it's comedic, but like heroic, I like that. So it's got to be like, but if it's like heroic in a serious sense, I can do it. That's not my strong suit. If it's like villainous in like a serious sense, I can do it. Villainous in a comedic sense, I also can do it. So it's like really what it is I just like playing bad guys. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I know it's not a bad character, but I know there's a lot of emotional stuff going on with Satoru in the race.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Satoru that's definitely one of the most just grounded, like not trying to be anything characters that I've done in a while. He's just very he takes everything like it's real to him. His life is just his life, and he's just watching it all completely go out of control. And it's a very neutral, grounded performance. I'm not putting on an act or trying to be somebody I'm not. It's just like, just be the character. He's just going through a lot. Don't give it, less is more. It's one of those roles. So yeah. I don't know if I'm answering your question at all. I think I'm just rambling about Satoru right now. Yeah.
What about with it's like, I know it's kind of over the top, and like the game is over the top, but character like Sig, Is that like difficult to bring acting to?
Sig from Puyo Puyo Tetris?
Well, since he's so like reserved and stuff all the time.
No, Sig is great. Sig is like, Ben is tired. Ben doesn't want to act. He's just like, all right, what are my lines? Hey, I like bugs. Great. I'm like, thank you. I don't have to scream at the top of my lungs. I don't have to kill myself. Oh my God. Bless your face. That's Sig. It's just Ben is tired, the character. So no, that one's easy.
Okay. What about the case where, like, the single case you think where you've had to alter your voice the most significantly?
The most vocally stressful, and thus, I guess, the most altered I've had to do would probably be Venom from Spectacular Spider-Man. But that was vocally stressful primarily because I had to do the lines multiple times in a row just to like get the right take, and then it was like, we need you to do it again in a different creature-y voice that we're going to layer on top of this. So it was like, it was just a lot. It was like, to do one episode, it was like just me. So rather than like an ensemble record with everybody in the room, just Ben for like 5 hours. And it was just like brutal, but that's what it took to get through just this one episode that was very Venom heavy. But like, there's also, but in terms of like just different, like probably Cutemon from Digimon Fusion, which I don't know if I can do it right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. My voice does not want to wake up this morning. So pardon me for clearing my throat, but
it's this voice right here. It's this little tiny pixie voice.
And that's probably like the biggest change from just my regular speaking voice that I would say I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna ask, is Cutemon like easy to sustain, or does it kind of depend on the day?
It's not vocally stressful in the same way that like Skeletor from He-Man is, where it's like that sound throughout it, where you're going, oh my God, my throat. This one is more of a clench a fist really tight and then just hold that for like a really long period of time, because that's
what I'm doing with my throat.
Yes, I'm
squeezing the crud out of it
to make that sound. So it, like the more you hold that kind of like, yeah, eventually like he starts sounding like this because I can't do it too much longer. But I would say probably I can do it for about 2 hours straight before I can it's finally just like, all right, man, like I can't maintain this voice anymore. But Cutemon doesn't have a ton of dialogue, so that worked out okay.
Mm-hmm. Just going back to the timeline of things, I know you played a multitude of characters in Bleach, but you have the most affinity with Suziel.
That's another one of those, like, very much like the guy from Be the Beginning from Kamui. He's like this deeply sadistic, like, scientist guy who likes to experiment on people. And it's like, here's the thing. If I had a nickel for every time Bleach had like a creepy scientist guy, I'd only have 2, but it's really weird that I'd have even just 2 nickels. Like, it's like, and they fight each other to the death. And like, Opera Grunt, spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen the show, has the most, in my opinion, fucked up death in the entire show, because he's basically tortured for like what feels like an eternity before he can finally die. It's like so messed up, but I'm just like, ah. But he kind of deserved it because he's also kind of an awful person, but the guy who beats him is also awful. So I'm like, I don't even know who to root for in this, but yeah, I would say I understand Opera Grunts the most out of all the characters I've done in Bleach. Most of them are just like one-off dudes. Like, it's guy A, falling off a waterfall, and like, that's it.
Yeah. For me, personally, I think my favorite role of yours is Furry in the Sailor Moon movie.
So speaking of, I just act, man. That's totally one of those roles. Like, okay, because somebody asked me about this at like a Sailor Moon convention. They were like, because they were asking all the characters, like, how do you connect, all the actors who are there, how do you connect with your character? And it got to me, and I'm just like, guys, real talk, all I do is I went into the room and I'm like, okay, so he's like sad, but in like a sexy way. So I'm like, oh, no, that's not sexy. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, I'm ready. And like Susie, our director's just like, God, he's such an idiot. Okay, go ahead. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm really sad, but I'm so beautiful. Oh. And that's the character. So like, I wish I could say like, oh yeah, I brought my A game, but like, nah, I phoned that one in, baby. I'm sorry. So if anybody who's watching this likes that character, I'm glad you like him. That was me not doing what you're supposed to do, but like, I guess it worked. So, all right.
Since you were already working on the series, was that part just given to you then?
No, I believe I had to audition for that. Most of the roles that I get, I do have to audition for. It's the the only time I get like just hired for stuff is they're like, we want you to come in and play some random characters in this MMO and, you know, use that vocal range, man. We got like 50 million characters, show up, do a bunch of roles, and like that's it. Those are the things where they just hire me. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I auditioned for that guy. So
Okay.
go Ben.
Well, besides Haida, who do you think that you personally relate to the most with anime characters then?
Besides Haida, damn. I don't know. I guess Jack from Beastars. He's nice. Like, no, I'm fortunate in that I don't really play too many characters that are just me. There's usually something that I like causes me to feel like, okay, yeah, I don't really know what it's like to be this character and think outside the box. So I definitely like playing. It's a relief to play characters that are very similar to me in personality, but it's always more of a challenge, and which is more interesting to play characters that are very different from me. So yeah, I guess Jack, because he's nice. I guess I'd relate to him, but like not really.
Okay. What about with Era and Pretty Cure? Nobody talks about that show ever, but
There's like probably like a couple of people on the internet who are like, you were this guy in Glitter Force, and I'm like, yes, I was. I think I was a bad guy. I think like I don't know. Some roles you just like you cling to them, and other roles you're just like, what did I do on that? Oh, right. I think his name is like Ira.
yeah.
I got it. Oh, that's a mirror. Oh, baby, the brain's firing. I had my coffee today. That's what that is.
What about with Humpty and Rokka?
Oh my God. Oh wow. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, he's like a cat guy, and he just does a bunch of cat oh my God, dude, that show. That was one of these things where like I won't say who said what, but people were just like, oh my God, this show, I have like 9 million lines of dialogue. None of this makes sense. Nothing happens. What is this? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm just like cat pun guy for some reason, just like a lot of like, let's go meow, like the entire time, just like, oh, but hey man, listen, you paid my electric bill, so worth it. But yes, Humpty, I think is the character's name from, yeah, Rokka, Braves of the Seven Flowers, something like that. Yeah. Oof. Oh, you're like making me like dust off some cobwebs, man.
Is that kind of a similar thing with a Twin Star Exorcist too?
Okay, so Twin Star Exorcist is just like bizarre because in that I play Bryce's fist as one of the other characters that I play. I think I play like one of the bad guys whose name I'm totally drawing a blank on. If I saw him, I'd be like, that guy. But I'm also like, he also has like this demon fist is like part of his character. And like, they wanted like something to go over him talking to be like, make this weird mix. And so like, that's me. So like, there's a part where Bryce is fighting me. So I'm literally being punched in the face by me. That's my memory of that show is like, yeah, Bryce is punching me in the face with also me. It's a weird show.
Has there been many cases with anime where you're like performing against yourself, like where you played multiple characters?
In anime, yes, but not like too much of the like it's Ben's big character versus Ben's big character. It's usually like I'm in Naruto Shippuden, I play Sai. Right. During the Great Ninja War, for instance, there's like this, he has like this team of like ninjas working under him. It's like Ninja A, Ninja B, Ninja C, like they don't have names. And I don't know why. I think it was like Susie, or who was directing that at the time, was just like, Ben, you're going to play your underlings too. So I'm like, okay. So it's like me going, go over there and do it. Yes, sir. Right, sir. Like, it's just like, yeah, that's, I would say the closest I really get. But in anime, they try to like space out who you play, so you're not just talking to yourself at all times. Otherwise, it does, unless the voices are really legitimately differently, people start going, I'm catching on to something here. This is weird. So not too often, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not in the same Tales game, but I thought it was cool that you were one of the villains. And before you got to be in Zestiria and play Rokka, you got to be a Lunar.
Who was I in Zestiria? I know I was Attack in Zestiria, but who? What?
Well, unless the credit's wrong, you were Lunar, like the crazy fox.
Oh, that's wrong. That's somebody else. Yeah, no, that's one of those things. People just credit me that, and I'm like, yeah, that wasn't me. So no, that different guy.
Okay. And it is cool in Berseria, of course. Rokuro isn't a character that you would think that you would play.
Yeah, no, like yeah, somebody who's cool. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't have guessed that either. Yeah, like him and like Bond from Seven Deadly Sins are like, wow, they're like really cool guys. And I'm like, yeah, that's not me. That's one of those things where I'm like, cool, I get to play somebody who's neat.
Well, I think maybe like with the most fun you've had with anime be Joseph Joestar.
Joseph Joestar was an experience. We dubbed that thing at the speed of light. So like those were like 8-hour days, which is very uncommon for dubbing, especially really vocally stressful stuff, because like you can straight up like wreck yourself. But we were like, we got a time crunch, let's go. So it was like 4 hours in the morning, hour of a break for lunch, and then 4 hours in the afternoon for like 3 days a week. So I don't know if fun is the right word, but like just like in terms of intense, I would say yes. That's definitely been my most intense anime role for sure. I enjoyed it, but like, yikes.
And then when you became Mega Man and like the most recent properties, was that a more involved audition process, or was it kind of just general?
That was an interesting one. It was an audition, and I think there was a callback for it. But what's interesting about that one, and this very rarely happens with the localization process, is the Japanese creator came from Japan to America to be at the recording session to give direct feedback on everything. And it was like, wow, cool. Because like, I mean, a lot of people who like watch anime are kind of a little bit clueless about how the localization process works, from everything from like dubbing and subtitling. Most of the time, the original creator isn't actually involved in that process. It's one of these bizarre things where like you'll find people saying, you know, I watch the subtitled version, you know, the real version, not the dub, where they just like interpret things. And I'm like, bruh, you do realize that the sub is a dude interpreting the Japanese. Like, it's not the Japanese creator sitting down and saying, here's the real meaning, write that down in English, please. It's somebody trying to interpret this. Like, you're still actually bit of a spinoff. So in season 1 of Aggretsuko, there is a scene it's in episode 10 of the first season. It's where Retsuko and Haida are in the hospital, and he's like trying to tell her how he feels, and she says something like, oh boy, what is it? She says, in our version, she says, but if you don't say it for real, I can't give you an answer. Meaning like, he's like, oh, you know where I'm going with this, right? And she's like, well, you got to say it for real. It's kind of ambiguous. The subtitled version is also kind of ambiguous. It says, but if you don't ask properly, I can't give you a proper answer. That's the subtitled version. So back when, this was before the Christmas special aired, somebody uploaded this scene onto YouTube, and people were commenting saying, well, what did she say? What happened? And somebody replied in the comments who is, they replied in slightly broken English. And what they said was, I'm Japanese and I'm learning English. And I think that this was mistranslated, because if you listen to the actual Japanese, you know she's going to turn him down. And so I was curious, and I went to Netflix, and I turned on the Japanese closed captioning. And so you can actually just see it written down in like hiragana and katakana. And I ran it through Google Translate. And what Google Translate says is, but if you don't say it properly, I can't refuse properly. So in reality, both the dub and the subtitles are technically wrong. They're technically inaccurate. And so one of the things that drives me kind of bonkers is whenever somebody says something like, oh, I watch this in subtitle because I know the real meaning. I'm like, bro, you're actually just reading somebody else's interpretation of what they think the Japanese creator is trying to say. Granted, there's a lot more creative liberty, right? They're not worried about mouth flaps and stuff like that, so they can just sort of spell things out a bit more. But Japanese to English is not this perfect one-to-one thing. It's not like a Latin root, you know, like Spanish to English, German to English, where it's like a one-to-one translation is totally possible. There's always that like interpretation level, and then it's also somebody interpreting somebody else's work, right? Like if you watch a movie in English, right? one reviewer has one review and they give it a glowing review and they say, here's what I took from this film and it was amazing. And somebody else watches the same film and says, this was a garbage film and here's why I think it's trash, right? It's because it's two people interpreting the same thing, and that's in the same language, let alone add a language barrier into this. So like, it's weird to me to see people like arguing sub versus dub as though one is better than the other, when in reality, sometimes one is more accurate, sometimes the other can be more accurate. A friend and director, her name is Stephanie Shea. She speaks Chinese. She knows how to speak the language. She was in charge of a Chinese dub and realized that some of the dialogue that she was receiving was inaccurate because she speaks Chinese. And so she changed the dialogue for the dub to be correct and more accurate, and was called out by some people on the internet saying, you got it wrong. And she's like, no, bro, I speak Chinese. The subtitles are wrongo. This is what they're actually saying. So like, just because you watch something written down or hear it spoken out loud in English doesn't necessarily mean you have it right or wrong. The best way to do this is like learn Japanese. that's really, so you, and understand the culture too. In other words, take this massive step and then interpret it for yourself and see how close you are. So I don't know why I went off on this tangent, but it's just an interesting thing to be about the whole. What was the actual question?
Oh, about becoming Mega Man.
Becoming Mega Man. So anyway, Mega Man, blah, 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 sub versus dub. There's my answer to your question. That's what it was like working on Mega Man. I don't know where I'm going with this, dude. I had too much coffee, apparently.
Well, it's kind of related to everybody else that I've talked to who was an Organization 13 member in Kingdom Hearts also said that was like really, really particular of a process. Did you have that experience too?
Oh yeah, for Kingdom Hearts. So yeah, they it's interesting. They kind of like backed off for the rest of the series, but for Dream Drop Distance in particular, like the Japanese producer was not there, but he was on the phone, and there was a lot of say, go up on this word, go down on this word, like stretch this word out, slow this part down, speed this part up. And it was just very, very detail oriented and very particular. And that's what they wanted. They were, the constant direction was flat, 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 because in that particular game, he is supposed to be kind of like, well, is he here to help you? Is he a bad guy? We're not sure until it's revealed, like, yeah, the dude with the white hair and the glowing yellow eyes. Yeah, he's also bad. Oh my gosh. But anyway, but like that's yeah, so it was very particular. And then from that point forward, they just kind of let me do stuff. And it was like if they want to correct me, they can, but sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. And that's yeah. Yeah.
And games, topic of games too. With everybody that you played in Fire Emblem, who do you think that you have the most affinity with those characters?
Oh, Saizo, because he's ticklish. Sorry, I'm like, no, don't tickle me. I hate that like big time. But no, probably Caspar from Fire Emblem Three Houses, just because he's my favorite to play. Because it's just like, I like punching stuff, the character. And that's his whole personality, is so violence, maybe. And I like that. It's just fun. I wouldn't say I like relate to him, but I do enjoy playing him.
Okay. This is another more obscure one.
Okay.
Really cool samurai anime, Katsugeki Token Ranbu.
Yes. I play, oh boy. Oh man. Oh boy. Yoshiage Kage. Dang it, I don't remember what his name is, but I would recognize him. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All I remember with Token Ranbu was they were very, very particular with the pronunciations and making it sound authentic. And boy, let me tell you something. One of the toughest things to do is speak American English and then switch to proper Japanese pronunciation mid-sentence and then switch back to English without it sounding like really jarring. Like, if you ever watched like the news and like the TV host is like, hi, thank you so much for tuning in to the news. My name is Miguel Dominguez and welcome to, and you're just like, what the, like, you don't want to have that in this. It needs to sound very like, you know, like very, very like natural. So hopping back and forth between the two is always a challenge. So there were a lot of retakes of like, no, you didn't quite tap that R correctly. That sounded too much like an L. Let's take it again. Yeah, that was the main thing I remember from that was like, oh man, I got to get these Japanese names really dialed in. So, but without it sounding too weeby is the best way of putting it. Like you ever met somebody who goes, oh yes, I do watch a lot of anime. Like, yeah, buddy, I know that's how it's pronounced, but like here in America, we just say anime. I know, like, yes, you're technically correct, but bro, you're making me cringe, bro. So like, you don't want to sound cringy. That's why you got to, yeah. So that was the challenge is no cringe, but please be correct.
You watch a lot of the stuff that you're in then?
I try to. I actually, I've it took a while to get to a point where I could like hear my own voice and not go, oh God, is that what I sound like? But like, I like to see how it turned out because, well, I mean, my whole thing is that I'll wind up like watching it and like reacting all my roles going, well, if I could do it again, this is how it would be. God, I screwed that up. I hate that performance. But like, at least vocally, I'm used to it. But I try to see how it turned out, especially so that if I do an interview, I can actually answer questions about it, hopefully, and be like, yes, I do remember that scene that you're talking about. Ha. But rather than like, I don't know, man, I just show up in a booth and I say stuff and then I guess I get paid at some point anyway. Like, that's not a good interview.
Yeah.
So I try to is the answer.
Okay. Another really cool role, Darnik and Fate.
Oh yeah. Yes. Dude who merges with Ray Chase, I believe, to become Monster. Spoiler. Sorry if anybody hasn't seen Fate Apocrypha. Or as my wife calls it, Fate, a crock pot. But yeah, I just play. That's one of those like, Ben, we need you to be very hammy and very evil. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like those are the bad guys I love playing. If it's like theatrically hammy and sinister, that's Ben's cup of tea right there. So yeah, Darnik is just fun. It's just camp and villainy and just digging into that particular zone in my brain.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't really seen you talk much about Yatta and Kay.
Yes, yeah, Yatta and boy, it's a very unusual show. Just its pacing, its style, it's very, very unique. And Yatta's whole thing is that like I feel like he's there, but he has his own sort of separate story thing where it's really just sort of him versus his old friend who he now hates, but they kind of like each other still, and like that's its own like little like segment of the story, and also he's part of the team. So it's like whenever people talk to me about Kay, I'm always just like, well, I can tell you how much he doesn't like Johnny Young Bosch, and like that's like I'm always at a loss of like how to answer like real deep detailed questions about the characters in that show and stuff like that. So I just kind of go, anyway, what else do you got? Like it's not that I don't like it, it's just I'm like, yeah, it's one of those things.
Oh, and then kind of a sad character in Cabaneri, Takumi.
Oh yeah, oof, yeah. I'm like, so this guy, he's really nice in a world full of monsters, so he's not gonna last too long. And then it's like, yeah, he's that like, it helps the main character's development, but like, yeah, I liked him. I thought he was just like cool and chill and like, a tech nerd. So like that's all right. That's a good character that I would definitely like connect to and associate with. That's a very me character. It's just like, yeah, I like technology and and I ain't gonna go out there and fight no monsters. What are you kidding me? I'd get killed. Like so like that's yeah, that's just like that's an easy guy for me to just take on. It's just Ben being Ben, and I think I did a voice, but I think it's really just the voice I'm doing right now.
Okay. Another one of the most recent anime is Wendelin and the Eighth Son.
Yeah. The Eighth Son. Who'd have thought? No.
Are you
kidding me? That's right. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. That's one of those like shows where we just kind of like did it. I wish I had something like really like clever, like yes, this had great meaning to me, but that was one of those roles like I can't. If you ask me what kind of character is this, I'd be like, he's the protagonist in an isekai.
Yeah.
There you go. Great. Yeah, I got nothing to say, buddy.
What about with Wolf Blood Lad? That's a really cool.
Bloodlad's awesome, yo. That's like I wish they made more of that. That's like a sick show. I love the concept of like the like awkward dorky vampire guy who's like actually kind of a badass. And like Wolf is like he's one of those characters I don't get to play too often who's just that stoic fuck you badass kind of guy. And I'm like, yeah, I would highly recommend if anybody hasn't seen Blood Lad. I think it's only like 12 episodes total, and then that's the end of the series. I think there might have been a movie. I think, not sure. But really cool. Yeah, just a really solid, interesting, fun show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, this was really early. Do you even remember being in Kakaishi?
That's the one with like the monk guy who I think is played by Vic Mignogna in the dub, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Oh God, I don't remember who I played in that. I think he had like a bag over his head. I think.
Mukade.
Yeah, that's the name. But boy, if you're like, remember that guy? I'm like, I was in that show. Hey, I have no idea what happened. I don't even remember the plot of that show, to be honest with you. It was on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, I'm like, this is me just like digging for memories right now and like coming up, just kunk, kunk, just like hitting the mantle of the earth and finding nothing. And also, I guess burning alive is the mantle is very hot. Science lessons with Ben.
I've seen you talk about it a little bit, but another like really fun role in Magi.
Yeah, I was a djinn. So he's like his name is Valifor, I believe, and he's like this big, powerful, beastly thing, and then he just turns into this. And so like the voice for his like cute dog form was what I based on the voice that I do for my dog, whose name was Rex. Anytime he would talk, he would look at me like this. I'd be like, "Hey, Dad, I want to go for a walk." And so that became Valifor's like cute dog voice. So it was just based on my dog, basically. I think he also has like Kitty 4 or something like that, who's like just like this weird cat thing. And I think I also played that. So it's just like because I think it sneezed a lot. And it was just, yeah. So it was Ben doing weird cat, cute dog, and also threatening, scary wolf thing. But it's just, yeah, it's just a random character. And I just had fun.
And then with Aggretsuko, when I did talk to Caitlin, GK, and Misty, they all said that they did audition for every character, but when they got to the one that they ended up playing, they kind of knew that it was meant for them. Was that kind of your thing too?
Let's see. Yeah. So like, okay, I auditioned for Tone, I auditioned for Komiya, and I auditioned for Haida. And I don't know why, because like I'd seen the original shorts when the auditions came out. I was like, oh, they already made this show, and I thought we were just dubbing the shorts. So I just watched them out of curiosity, like, let me see what this is. And I wound up like watching like all, like, I think they were up to like 88 at the time. So they hadn't released all of them. So I just binged all of them. Like, I love this so much. And for some reason, and I don't know why, I saw Haida and I was like, that dude has a crush on Retsuko. And that's how I'm going to play this character. I don't know why I felt that way, but and it turned out to be true. So for my audition for Haida, I imagined him as being this kind of like ladies' man. So like the audition dialogue is like him talking to Retsuko and Feneko about like, like, oh, Tone, you can't rat on him now. He'll just make up some excuse to the boss. Like, I never meant to make Retsuko feel that way. And so in the audition, he just feed him a line of BS like that and get off without a scratch. Be better off not reporting it. Like I don't envy you girls one bit. Like, oh, ladies, I meant women, not girls. I'm sorry. Like just kind of this really like kind of cool version of the character. And then I got there and Patrick was like, so we liked your voice, but we don't want it to sound like cool or anything like that. We want it to sound more like kind of like awkward and dorky. And I'm like, so you want my regular speaking voice? Because that's basically what I'm doing. He's like, yes. And you want him to sound like an awkward dork, which I am. Yes. So you just want me to be myself? Yes. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so easiest role of my life, just show up and be a very, very awkward person. So like, yeah, when I got that role, I'm like, no, this is good casting. Yeah, this is depressingly good casting because boy, howdy, does Haida do some stuff that I have personally done and am very ashamed of. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like giving me flashbacks to all the things I used to do. And I'm like, oh, this is terrifying. But yeah, no, once I got it, I was like, yeah, good call. This is very, yeah, good casting, guys.
I did think it was especially interesting that you said that the like first date with your wife was similar to what their first date was.
Oh my God. Season 4. Listen, guys, if you watched season 4 and you were frustrated with Haida and you were very annoyed with him, you got nothing on me, because watching this, I'm like, oh wow. So, all right. When I first met my wife, for anybody who hasn't heard the story, you obviously have because you've been paying attention to stuff for these questions. My wife and I had been talking on Facebook Messenger for a while. There was a lot of back and forth. I thought she was cute. She thought I was cute. And we were kind of getting into a thing. And I was like, hey, you know what? If you're ever in LA, maybe we could go somewhere, go do something. And she's like, well, it just so happens that I'm visiting some family members out there. And I'm like, okay. So we got together for a date. And throughout the date, I was like a nervous wreck. And there was like all of these moments of just like awkward silence where like I didn't know what to say and she wasn't saying anything. And I'm like, oh my God. I like set this whole thing up. I was doing great when it was just online and I could sit there and compose a bunch of clever stuff. And now in person, I am brain freeze and I don't know what to say. This is the worst date ever. Look at her just sitting there in stunned silence. No idea what to say. I am the worst. I am a piece of shit. I am absolutely god awful and I should just burn in hell. Fuck me. Fuck everything. That's what I'm thinking. We're at dinner and I'm like pouring sugar packets into my water. I don't know why I don't do that. And she's just looking at me and she's like, why are you putting sugar in your water? And I'm just like stirring and like laughing like a maniac, like, I like it sweet. And I'm just thinking, shut the fuck up, you idiot. You are blowing this. You're the dumbest person alive. Anyway, after just like nothing went right on this date. Like we'd had plans and they all fell through. I took her back to her hotel room. She was staying with her cousins. And I'm dropping her off. And all I'm thinking is, all right, okay, this has been an unmitigated disaster. You have blown this. You are a garbage person. But you know what? You can at very least end this date without being a total asshole, okay? Don't be one of those dudes who after just like ruining the date thinks he's like owed something and try to kiss her. Are you kidding me? This was an awful date. So what I did was I dropped her off and I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this. So I'm just like, anyway, I will see you later. And I did these stupid finger guns and like awkwardly walked backwards away and left. And I'm like, all right, date was horrible. At least there's like that 1% of me that isn't just a total garbage trash fire, awful person. At least I did that right. And so I spent the next day mostly moping to myself, just going like, why am I so terrible at this? I am going to die alone and I deserve it because I am clearly horrible. Unbeknownst to me, she actually enjoyed that date. All those moments of silence, it was comfortable. She was really enjoying herself throughout the entire experience and I was doing a great job until the very end when I finger gunned and moonwalked away. And she walked in and she told me about the details many months later. She went into the hotel room where her cousin was staying and just burst into tears and was like, just mortified. And she's like, I don't know why he hates me. And this is the worst day of my life. I thought everything was going great. And spent her whole day also horribly depressed and upset. And her cousin, fortunately, her cousin is basically our Tsunoda. She basically was like, send him another message on Instagram or on Facebook Messenger. He doesn't like me. He did this and he left. And she's like, just send him a message. Send him a message. Send him a message. You're still in town for another day. Send him a message. And finally, she's like, okay, fine. I don't know why I'm doing this. And she sends me a message and I get it. And I'm like, wait, she wants to hang out some more. I didn't blow this. And here's the deal. And this is the thing where we very much differ from Haida and Aggretsuko. We did this magical little thing. It's called talking. We communicated. And so like, I just basically came clean. I was like, I thought you hated me. And that's why I walked away. And she's like, I like you. I thought you hated me. No, I like you too. Oh, want to make out? Yes. And then we kissed. I'm like, this is great. She's like, I know, right? And then I dropped her off and I gave her a goodbye kiss the way I should have done originally. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot my shot. This is her last day here in town. I said, hey, want to be my girlfriend? And she said, yes, I do. And I'm like, awesome. And then I left and I just drove home delirious in a fog. literally in a fog. It was foggy out, so I was like, "Oh God, oh geez, oh that's a car." Okay, and drove all the way home, and that's how our relationship began. So when in season 4, when Haida is like hands back Retsuko's like shopping bag with that stupid fucking abacus thing that he thought was a good gift, whatever, he hands it back to her and he goes, "Farewell," with his little salute. I'm like, oh God, it's this. And then he leaves and I'm like, oh, this is so painful to watch and record. So yeah, I like, that's like why I said like, yeah, like I've done a lot of the things that this character has done and very, very ashamed of him. And watching it all happen again, you're just like, this is tough.
What about with the like climax of season 4 where she slaps him?
Oh God. Oh, I literally turned and looked through the recording glass at our director, Patrick Seitz, and I said, thank fucking God somebody finally hit this idiot. Like, no, I was like so thrilled because of just how insane he went. Season 4 is a painful season, but it's a very necessary one for Haida because like, you can't really talk about season 4 without talking about season 3. Mm-hmm. Okay. Season 3 is, if you're paying attention to the plot progression, it's set up kind of like, you know, that meme with like dominoes where it's like this guy setting up these progressively larger white blocks and shows like, you know, you can here, it starts off here and then it ends up here. It's that kind of thing. That's season 3, right? Like it starts off, she's lonely because she broke up with her boyfriend. Small little teeny tiny domino, right? Then it's, she gets into this dating sim gotcha game, spends all her money. Bigger domino. Her mom gives her some money. Now she can finally eat well. And now she wants the good life. So she goes to a nice restaurant, but she's hungry. She's not thinking straight, backs into somebody. Bigger domino. That guy makes her come work for him. She doesn't want to do it, but she does it anyway. Bigger domino. He realizes she can sing and puts her in his girl group. Bigger domino. She starts getting kind of famous and she starts accumulating all these fans and it seems like it's pretty good. Bigger domino. One of those fans doesn't like her and verbally abuses her. Bigger domino. He tries to murder her. So it goes from like, I just miss having a boyfriend to almost getting killed with a box cutter. And the whole point of that is that throughout season 3, Retsuko has almost no agency in her life. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't really like stop things. She doesn't put the brakes on anything at any one real time. Like the closest she comes is she tells Hyodo, I don't want to be in the band. That's not for me. But as soon as he puts like a little bit of pressure on her and says, if you don't get up there, they're going to fail, right? Suddenly it's like, okay. And then she goes and does it anyway, instead of putting her foot down and saying, bro, congratulations. You just made Monica look like an idiot unless she can belt out some death metal. She doesn't stop the train. It just keeps going. And that's Retsuko's primary personality flaw. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, I don't like her. It's flaws make characters interesting. Her whole shtick is she's very passive to the point where like she will push people away and be like, oh, no, this is fine. I got this. It's okay. Very introverted, very to herself. Doesn't show her own flaws to people, tries to like keep everything on the down low. And you just watch her life spiraling out of control. And the ultimate lesson is, look, if you don't take charge of your life, the world is just going to walk all over you. And that's why she winds up like at the end of it, just a total mess of like, I can't trust anybody. I don't feel safe with anybody. This is my life now. And I guess that's just what it is. And she's like, she's just hiding physically and mentally from the world because she can't trust anything. And that's the ultimate, I guess, lesson from season 3 is take charge, you know, take control of your life. And what I wish people would talk about in season 4 is the fact that Retsuko is like legitimately a better person in season 4. Like she starts off, she learns martial arts to defend herself. She's like, I ain't going to be a victim for the rest of my life. She winds up like hanging out with her work friends in real life. She's expanding her social circle. When she gets like pressured into doing stuff, she says no, and she puts her foot down. And it's like, hey, this is growth. This is that character growth that people have been wanting to see. And so many people are just so focused on what an idiot Haida is. Fair, he is a total idiot this season. But like Retsuko like legit does so much better. And it's actually really nice to see her kind of take charge and be a little bit more of a girl boss this season. But for season 4, that's what season 3 was for Retsuko. This is season 4 is for Haida. It's here's his big personality flaw, and here's how it screws up his entire life and what he needs to work on, which is he thinks he just doesn't have confidence, right? It's not that. He has self-esteem issues. His self-esteem issues pour into all of these different aspects and cause him to do all of these terrible things, think all of these awful things, and basically ostracize his own friends from himself, all because he doesn't believe in himself. And it's a necessary season, but it's also a very frustrating one because, you know, when you talk to somebody who has self-esteem issues, it's somebody who is basically their own worst nightmare. They cause their own problems, and it's hard to be sympathetic to somebody like that. Like if you watched me walking down the street, I don't know, I have one of my shoelaces is untied, and you see that, and I trip over that shoelace and I fall down. You go, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Ow, what happened?" And you go, "Oh, Ben, your shoelace was untied." And I go, "Oh, no wonder. Did I trip on it?" And you're like, "Yeah." And I go, "Oh, thanks, man. Wow, I'm such an idiot. I should really tie that thing." And then I stand up and just keep walking. Don't tie my shoelace and trip again and fall down. Are you going to be sympathetic to me? Like the more you just watch me just constantly causing my own problems, at a certain point you go, you need to tie that shoe or like just stop walking. Like, what is the matter with you? Like it stops being sympathetic. And that's, Haida is not presented in a sympathetic light because he's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be pissed off at him, watching him basically screw up everything that he's ever wanted. He gets the opportunity to date her. Like, she is not pushing him away whatsoever. She's basically like, all you got to do is take that one step inside my apartment. We can have a conversation. We can get to know each other better. You know, like what you wanted. I'm down. I'm game. Let's give this a shot. And he's just like, no. And it's like, what do you do? It's self-sabotaging behavior, massive thing for people who have self-esteem issues. So it's that kind of thing of like, I get what they're going for. It's just a very, very difficult thing to watch. So yeah, I don't know what the question was, but there's some Ben talking about Haida season 4.
Well, and this is related to recording at season 4 and any other time that he raps. Are those difficult to do?
Not really.
Okay.
No, it's not singing, you know, it's not like, Ben, hit this note. That is the note you need to hit. It's just say these words kind of aggressively. Like, I can do that. That's not too hard.
Okay. And what's been throughout the entirety of the series so far, what's the most emotionally involved you had to go for him, do you think?
It might be where he thinks Retsuko is dead in season 3. But like, yeah, but like also scenes with like him talking to Feneko for me are like the more like emotional scenes where he's like just coming clean about how he really feels and how like just clearly broken of a person he really is. Like you really get to see like, oh yeah, this isn't like some white knight in shining armor who's going to come save the day. This is a guy who really does need to like learn how to love himself, because you just see like, damn man, like why are you so horrible to yourself? Why do you hate yourself so much? Like, what's the matter? And so like just seeing him like break down, those are also like really the emotional scenes for me too. Yeah,
I know there's a lot of fan favorite where the scene where he's like laying in the sidewalk in the rain up at the sky.
Could I be more pathetic? Yeah, boy, isn't that a prophetic line for season 4? Like, turns out, yes, he can be more pathetic.
Several people in the sub, they were wondering if you could find any parallels between, I know Shiro and Brand New Animal is different than Jack and Haida a lot, but do you find any parallels between the three of them?
I guess sort of between Jack and Haida in that they are both nice people, but that's about it. I mean, Jack is also a lot younger. He's like a teenager, and he's his whole shtick is that he's dealing with a lot of pressure at school. It's a dog thing in that world where like the dogs are expected to be like, you're super smart by nature. You've been bred for intelligence. You got to do well in school. You have to eventually take over as like political leaders. That's your goal. And so he's under a lot of pressure. And Shiro is just like a stone cold badass who has like, is very different from both of them. So I would say there's a little bit of throughput between Haida and Jack, and they also have similar voices. I mean, Jack is just sort of me, but just a little bit lighter in my voice without quite as much texture and a little bit more innocent. And Haida's just me talking, just like whatever. And then Shiro is just like, I am the knight. I am Batman. It's that kind of character type voice. But So not a lot of throughput between the two. They just all happen to be, they have the polymorphic animal people. That's really the main throughput.
I know, of course, that you've had a lot of interaction with the furry community since these roles started. Has it been? Seems like it's been mostly positive.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like furries get like such a bad rap where it's like, you want to know what furries are? They're artists. That's primarily what furries are. It's people who are like, I draw a lot, I act, I sing, I dance. There's just like a lot of talented artists in the furry community, and most of them are very nice. There's, of course, yes, there are creepy people in there, but there's creepy people in literally every fandom. Are you a Star Wars fan? There are creepy Star Wars fans. It's just human nature that most people are going to be totally fine, and then a few people are going to be like the bad eggs that spoil the entire carton. I don't think that's actually a saying, but you know what I mean. Like it's like everybody focuses on like the creepy weirdos, and it goes, that's the whole community, and it's like, no, it's mostly just nice people who just like art.
And you've referred is the term that you use with like what you identify as furry adjacent?
Yes, I say furry adjacent. Some people have asked me like, yeah, you like Aggretsuko because you're a furry, and I'm like, no, it's a good show, that's why I like it. It's like, I don't have a persona. People have asked me that before, and I'm like, well, I mean, I like dogs, so I guess some like a wolf or a dog. I don't know. Like, I don't like. That's why I'm like, I'm furry adjacent. Like, I like animals. The end. Like that's as close to that as I really get. That's why I just don't identify as one, and I don't like it. I don't like it when people will identify as something that they're not to try to get something. You know, like there was some political politician or something like that, I forget who it was, who like discovered that like for some reason the furries liked her or him, whoever it was, and was like really leaned into it. It was like, oh yeah, I'm totally into this, vote for me. It was that kind of thing, and I'm just like, I don't like that shit. I think that's really manipulative. So like, unless something changes in my life, like, no, I'm just gonna be like, no, I like you guys, but like, no, I'm not really part of the community.
Someone said in contrast with Shiro and Haida, what did you do? Did you do anything specific to get into Shiro's headspace?
Oh, yeah. Shiro is, because I mean, he's, like I said, he's basically Batman. It's just a very different mentality, and it's all about just like, you take everything serious as a heart attack. You have you're passionate about things, but like in that, like, I care about you and I won't let anything bad happen to you. It's that just very stoic type of headspace. So I mean, it's not I've played characters like that before, but yeah, Shiro is just, I don't want to say he's one note, that's kind of mean, but we don't really get to explore too much of his character in the series. He's mostly there as like the straight man, you know, to Michiru, is it, I believe her name, to like her character. And it's just fun. It's just fun to play like that kind of a guy, but like to get into his headspace, it's just, you just got to leave all of your personal feelings at the door and say like, all right, no, I'm here. I have a mission, and the mission is everything. And the mission is like, keep my people safe. It's that kind of thing. So that's how you get into his headspace, I would say.
Okay. What would you personally like to see for Haida in another season, the new season?
I would like to see, now that we've had the let's break down all of Haida's problems season, I would like what season 4 was for Retsuko. I would like season 5 to be for Haida, where it's like he finally goes, okay, I need to stop being horrible to myself. I need to just like, you know, get a clue and like get my shit together. There is like, I don't, keep in mind, I don't learn about what is going to happen in season 5 until I'm literally in the recording booth. Like, so like I have no idea even what the progress is on this season, but my guess, and I think I'm probably right, is the fact that he is without a job is probably going to be some sort of a plot related thing in season 5. Because like we meet in season 4, Shishiro, who's the warthog guy, also played by Jameson Bowes. And he basically has this conversation with Haida saying like, yeah, man, my girl left me for like this wage slave 10 years older than her. Man, when you don't have a job, boy, people really view you differently. Don't be like me. And at the end of season 4, Haida has no job. He quit. So it's like he's now like, what is he going to do? So my guess is he's probably going to be like, oh God, Retsuko won't date me now that I'm unemployed. That's probably going to be something in season 5 is my guess. But really, if they are still together as a couple, I don't want the romance. That's fine. I don't care. I want cute couples shit. The stuff that like couples do in private. That's what I want. Okay. Like running around in an apartment in their underwear, trying to like slap each other on the butt. Stupid nonsense like that you don't normally see. I want to see that cute, like gross stuff that's just like funny and like very real. Then I can actually buy them as a couple as opposed to show them going on a single date and then like that's it. Like, that doesn't convince me of anything. I want to see them actually get along with each other. Season 5 wish list is him getting his shit together, probably won't happen, and like cute couple stuff hopefully happens.
And your favorite character is Feneko, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh God. Just like, I love how she just cuts to the bone nonstop. Like she has just like no patience for anything. It's great. It's Caitlin Galt just like cranked up to a 10. Because like real Caitlin will be like, okay, I'm gonna have some patience with you. You know, like all right, you're saying some stupid stuff. Okay, well, honey, all right. Here's my response. Oh, you're gonna keep being stupid? Okay, so whoop. Here's why you're an idiot. And it's just like, oh yeah, get him, Caitlin. So like Feneko is just like maxed out Caitlin all the time. And I find that hilarious. Also because I don't live with a Feneko character. I think then I'd be like, oh my God, my personal life is just taking a beating on a daily basis. I don't know if I can handle that in real life too much, but yeah, I do find her as a very funny character. I love Feneko so much.
Yeah, back when I interviewed Kayla, just said that her like favorite part of voicing Feneko is getting to yell at you.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
What are your, besides with like Tsunoda, Feneko, and Retsuko, what are your favorite character interactions that Haida has with other characters?
Well, you took away the good ones, so now I'm like, boy. Oh, I guess Anai.
Yeah.
I love how like at first, like he got respect from Anai. Like it was like, hey, I need this done. And like, yes, sir. And now it's just like, Anai is just like, I have just had it with this guy. He gets drunk by like 2 beers, although he probably had a lot to drink before then already because he has a drinking problem. And it just like making fun of him the whole time. You're like, no, you lucked out, man. Like just like hitting him over the shoulder in season 4. There's a bunch of outtakes where it's just me going like, oh my God, you lucked out, you fucking psycho. Oh my God, I don't know how the hell you got a girlfriend. Just like, yeah, because he's just, so like watching their dynamic change from like, senpai and kohai to, like, senpai and kohai, is that right? I think so. Anyway, like upper person and like the person beneath me to just being like, oh, shut the hell up, Haida, you idiot. And it's just like, yeah, that's the correct character progression. So yeah, just watching them bounce off of each other. I do enjoy that. So yeah, I guess it would be an eye.
What about a like single favorite line or lines?
Oh, I don't know if outtakes count. I don't think they do. But I would say, oh gosh, I think it's him hanging out with Anai and like super blackout drunk and just going, it's a night and Haida, we're having such fun, and ambassador parties, just like yeah, any drunk nonsense is that, or in season 4, like I'm so scared, Feneko. That's yeah, any of those like just like dumb boy being dumb parts are my favorite parts.
I think a lot of stuff was covered, but the highest rated comment or question was like what your favorite dipping sauce is, like for chicken nuggets. I don't know why, but
I guess barbecue sauce and like ketchup in second place. If Ben's eating nuggets and you got barbecue sauce, look out, I'm coming for you, I guess.
So outside of Aggretsuko, is there anything else that's upcoming that you can safely talk about that you're part of? In about, I want to say like 4 or 5 days, I think, there's going to be an announcement of a thing I'm in. Okay. So be on the lookout for something very, 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 very soon. When you see this, it'll be like, oh,
tomorrow. It'll be something like that. It'll be, so stay tuned for something arguably perhaps tomorrow, and you'll be like, oh, that's the thing he was talking about on that interview. Gotcha.
What about with like anime stuff? Is there anything that you can talk about? Or
well, that thing is anime, so
Okay.
there you go. Yeah. I hope you guys are enjoying Boruto. I'm on that. Still aside. So yeah, you know what's gonna happen as soon as this interview is over. I'm gonna go, oh, I should have mentioned X, Y, and Z, and dang it, man. But like, yeah, there's stuff. Stuff is coming out.
Okay. Well, my final question then is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my websuit to be? What?
Legacy.
Oh, my legacy. Thank you. Yeah, because I don't know what a websuit is. I guess to be Spider-Man, apparently, a websuit. My legacy, I just want people to enjoy the characters that I've played. It's pretty simple. It's always flattering and also a little scary when people will say things like, oh man, this character you played changed my life. And like, I was horribly depressed. And before I like ended it all, I watched this show and it felt great. And a part of me is like, I'm so happy you're still here. And also like, oh my God, this is so much pressure. Like, I hope I don't screw up this character and cause a relapse. But like, in general, I just want people to enjoy the work that I've done. And like, that's kind of it. It's a pretty simple request. That's my legacy, is just making good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can say that back when I first watched the original dub of the Sailor Moon movie, when it, like the first one that came out, Fiore was definitely instrumental in helping me be comfortable with my sexuality as I grew up.
Oh, cool. I'm glad. See, that's one of those things where I'm like, oh man, I just told this guy who really cares about it, like, I don't know, man, this is acting. Or give like the worst response. This is my nightmare. Do you understand? This is my nightmare. Is, oh God, oh no. But I'm glad that character helped, and I'm glad that my performance played some role in that, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This was really fun.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll be sure to send it to you once I have it up too, if you want to see it.
Will do. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.